What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Dominate the Books. I'm your host, Keith. Thursday night football again, week 5. We got the 49ers and the Seahawks. I got a couple player props from each team, 3 from the 49ers, 3 from the Seahawks, and a couple game props that I think you guys will like as well. So let's get into this. I'm using a different software format to record this video here. My usual one I work with is kind of acting up, so it's a little clunky. Bear with me. All right, so let's get into this. Skip that. First one we're going to look at is Geno Smith. He's failed to exceed a pass longer than 35 and a half yards in 4 of his last 5 games at home. So we're going to I'm going to look at the under on his longest pass completion of 35 and a half yards. So minus 103. And as you can see at the screenshot here, last 5 games, he's only hit that one time at home. And that was against Miami last month. So, yeah, that's minus 103. And you can find that over at Caesars. If you don't have Caesars, they got it over DraftKings at minus 110. Bet MGM or Bet 365 minus 115. And Bet MGM at minus 20. Next one, we're going to look at Geno again. He has exceeded 252 and a half passing yards in 4 of his last 5 games. So he's actually averaging 293 yards passing per game. So we're going to take the over. That's a minus 110. Now, I saw him in the Detroit game. He balled out. That was a shootout. I got to watch a little bit of that Giants game, and he kind of came on strong towards the end of the game. But if we look here, all 4 games this year, he smoked his line. Smoked it. He went under in the last game against Denver at the end of the season last year. Not really sure what happened there, but I like it. Geno Smith, minus 110 to go over 252 and a half yards passing. And best line for that minus 110 is at Bet 365 at the time of this recording. All right, next one, his wide receiver, Tyler Lockett. So I try to look at 3 for the Seahawks and 3 for the 49ers as well. Tyler Lockett has exceeded 44 and a half receiving yards in 5 of his last 6 games. He's averaging 57 and a half receiving yards per game. Minus 110. Then we just look at the stats here. His last, what's this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Last 6 games, he's hit it 5 times. So, who was that? Against New England is the only time that he didn't hit it. So I'm not really sure what happened then. But New England's so terrible, they probably just blew them out the water, and he didn't have to really do too much. But minus 110, we can also get that at Bet 365. And again, if you don't have Bet 365, you get at FanDuel for minus 114 or minus 115 at Bet MGM. Next one, 49ers wide receiver Juwan Jennings. He has exceeded 28 and a half receiving yards in 5 of his last 6 games. So we're going to take a look at the over on his receiving yards. He's actually been averaging 69.8 receiving yards in the last 5 and 6 games. And I remember when I think Debo, they had a lot of injuries. Debo got hurt. I think Kittle was out. He went crazy against the Rams. He had 175 yards in that game. I think he had like 2 touchdowns. And then the following week, he had 88 yards against the Patriots. Not too sure what happened in the game last week against the Cardinals. I know everybody was kind of like back in the lineup. You know, Debo, Kittle. Brandon Ayuk had a big game, so they probably just feeding him. I know he went well over 100 yards in that game. But 28 and a half yards over for Juwan Jennings. I like it. You know, look at all except last week, he hit it. And like I said, for the last 2 out of the last 3 weeks, he blew it out the water. Minus 114, we can get that over at FanDuel. It's like none of the other books have this listed. So if that's a prop you like, I would say hop on it fast. Next one, Brock Purdy. He has exceeded 268 and a half pass plus rush yards in 4 of his last 5 games. So I'm going to take a look at the over on that as well. Get that at minus 114 and take a look at his last 5 games. The last 4 straight, he's blown this out the water as well. Another thing I wanted to mention, I'm going to look at I didn't put it in this presentation here, but I'm going to look at possibly betting both of the quarterbacks' rushing yards individually. I think Brock Purdy's line at the time of this recording was like 11 and a half yards, and Geno was at like 16 and a half. Pretty much every week they get that with no problem. So that's another thing you can do like this if you wanted to build a parlay. Take passing yards for both quarterbacks and the rushing yards for both quarterbacks, and boom, that's a 4-legger right there. So that was minus 114 on Brock Purdy pass plus rush yards. And that's over at FanDuel as well. No other book has that. That's surprising. So again, just like the last one, if you like it, hop on it. Next one, Jordan Mason. We're going to look at his under on receptions, under 1.5 receptions from a man, Jordan Mason. He's failed to exceed that line in 17 of his last 19 games. So that's a minus 120. So if we look at this, now if you look at those older games, Christian McCaffrey was getting the majority of the playing time in those games. A couple of those games, he might not even got in until like the end of the game. But if we take a look at just the 5 games from this year, 3 out of the 5, he's missed that line. And in the 2 games that he did go over, he got 2 receptions. So he went over by 1 reception. So I like that. Or again, just like a parlay, something else maybe you can add to that parlay with Brock and my man Geno. If you don't want to take the under, just put him in for 1 reception. That's something you can do as well. Or, and that's actually the best line. I know it says 110 on this screen, but the best line I can find was 127. I don't know if they had that in there earlier and then they just didn't update it or whatever the case may be. But yeah, 127 was the best line that I can find. That was over at Caesars, and 127 on an under, that's kind of, I don't know, that's kind of juicy for me. Say for instance, you bet $100 on that, that's only a profit of $63 if it cashes. So what I was thinking is you can take an alternate line, another parlay idea here with his rushing yards. As you can see from this screenshot here, he's went over 70 yards in each 5 of his stats as far as rushing this year. So I would feel comfortable taking this alternate line at 70 yards rushing. So if you combine that with his under on receptions over at Caesars, you can do something like this. Boom. You get a plus 150 on it. So say, for instance, if you were to just put this 2-leg parlay together, under on his receptions, 70 yards, alternate rushing line, plus 150. If you were to bet $100 on this, that would be a profit of $150. So you'll win a total of $250. So just a little idea there if that's something that you like, you want to take a little gamble on. Next one, a team prop. The San Francisco 49ers are 2-7. That's 22.2% against the spread in their last 9 games as a favorite. So as you can see, Seattle is getting 3.5 points in this game. So they're a home underdog. I don't know how good this is going to show up here, but they don't really cover the spread. They lost. They were -7 against the Falcons last week. The Cardinals last week. They lost that game. They covered against the Patriots 10.5. Lost against the Rams. Lost against the Vikings. They covered the 3.5 against the Jets. And then KC, Detroit, Green Bay, and the Rams, they didn't cover any of those spreads. Actually lost against the Rams. Uh, so if you like that plus 3.5, if you don't think they're going to cover that spread, you can get that minus 115 at Bet ESPN, Caesars, Bet MGM, and Bet 365. If you don't have any of those books, FanDuel has it for minus 120 and DraftKings minus 118. Next one, another game prop on the 49ers. They're 8-4 at 66.7% in their last 12 games versus bottom 10 scoring defenses. So Seattle, if they take the ball away, they're not about to take it to the house for 6. For whatever reason, San Fran does pretty good against those type of defenses, but this is minus 170 on the money line. So if you think that San Fran is going to win that game on the money line but not cover the spread, I didn't include it. No, I didn't include it here. I didn't include it, but you can go online and just kind of play around with the different books. I think if you combine those two together, like on FanDuel, you can get it out of like plus 550. DraftKings, I think it was like a plus 650. So that's a couple things to consider as well. The other thing about that spread that might play into it, as you probably seen, the 49ers signed kicker Matthew Wright to replace Jake Moody. He got hurt in that game last week against the Cardinals. Early in the game, I think it was on a special teams play. And there was a couple times where I was just flipping back and forth that I seen, like on 4th and 6, they were in the red zone. They couldn't even kick a field goal because he was hurt. They had no backup kicker. So who knows about this kicker, Matthew Wright? He might be, just some bum off the street and miss a couple kicks, and that can play into the outcome of this game. So that's another thing to consider when you're placing your bets here. If we look at the public, where the money is going, as far as the public is concerned, as of this recording, 74% of the money is going on the money line for the San Francisco 49ers. 61% is going on the 49ers as well to cover that spread at 3.5. And then surprisingly, 78% of the money is going on the over 47.5 points. I guess with these two teams, that's really not a surprise. I know a lot of these games on Thursday night, they're usually clunkers and they go under, except for that game last week with the Falcons and the Buccaneers. That one went over, way over. So maybe they think it's going to be another repeat of that. But yeah, that's what we're looking like. All the money's going on San Fran. So that's the information that I got for you. I didn't include any parlays or anything in this video because I'm just being a little greedy, honestly. At the time of this recording, none of the books had any boosts up, so I'm just going to wait to go ahead and put my parlays together. But I'm probably going to be doing some variation of what I said in this video. So if you want to see what I'm betting, you could just check me out on Twitter or on Instagram. Just search Dominate the Books on both platforms, and you can see whatever parlays I cook up there, and I'll post them there for you guys probably tomorrow because I don't think they'll go ahead and put those boosts online tonight. But appreciate you guys tuning in. Please remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Appreciate it. Peace. How the hell did I get out of here? There we go.